Alright, so this is day 7 of the water fast, and I used 26.3 gallons of water today. So I'm pretty happy with that, because that was under the amount that we were supposed to use, and I know that I said I wanted to reach that goal, at least on the last day. So I'm pretty proud of that, but you know, I always think that I could have done better. I should have tried harder. But other than that, I think that was good. And today, I was thinking more about collective action problems and veganism and the idea that people don't want to change, at least in our industrialized country, in our developed country, they don't want to change because it's not convenient. And the change would be relatively easy, to use less water or to be vegan, and people just don't want to change, and that's how it is. It's very, very frustrating and upsetting, because once you know the truth, like with veganism, you're using a lot less resources than you would if you were eating animal products, and with water fasting, every little bit definitely counts. But if people knew these things and knew the truth, then maybe they would change. And I feel like some people definitely know the truth about it and they still don't want to change, which is even worse. So that is the depressing part about it. I was reading some of the principles of environmental justice in our textbook, because I felt like at least the first 3 are very general, but they're very applicable to water fasting and basically the whole 7 days in general. So out of the first 3, I just wanted to read one of them. I want to read the second one. Environmental justice demands that public policy be based on mutual respect and justice for all peoples, free from any form of discrimination or bias. So, and this was made by the first people of color in the Environmental Leadership Summit, but I think that it does definitely recognize all peoples and all beings on the planet, and how it is not fair that some people do not have the water that they need, or people have to walk 10 miles to get the water that they need. And it rectifies that every person and human on the planet, person and organism, I should say, on the planet has the right to things that it needs and its resources, like fresh water, a place to live without it being destroyed, and clean air to breathe and things like that. So I think that I've noticed that on every single paper that I've read for this project, it all just talks about the issue being solved by one main thing. And it's obviously very general, but it's like we need to think of ourselves, the human race needs to think of ourselves as one people, rather than, okay, I live in my industrialized country and I don't see any of these people with their issues about water scarcity, so it doesn't exist to me. We need to stop thinking that way. I feel like a lot of people know what's going on and they just choose to ignore it because they don't see it, or they think that it doesn't exist because they don't see it in front of them in our industrialized country and our developed countries around the world. So we need to open our eyes and we need to have more compassion towards people that are suffering, because as I've talked about before, no one is better than me and I'm not better than anyone else. So I wish more people had that mindset, but I think that more realistically we need to have better policies that help protect waterways, fresh waterways, and we need to think about ways to cut down on our water usage. We need to stop having such manicured lawns, and we need to use less fresh water for things that are not necessary. And I think that the more that water scarcity, water is basically just going to get more and more scarce over time. And I think that the more that this threat becomes more obvious to people and lawmakers, the more willing they're going to be to do something about it, which is unfortunate because science is telling us now and statistics are telling us now that there's a problem, but everyone just wants to sit around and dance around the problem. So I think that once it becomes more of an issue and we start realizing that people's lives are at stake and people's well-being around the world are at stake, then we will make some changes. But in the meantime, we have to use less water and we have to do whatever we can do to conserve water. And I think that it's difficult, but it's doable, as I learned this week. And I want to end the video and the week by saying that it is a privilege to be able to fast in general. It's a privilege to be vegan. It's a privilege to be zero waste. It's a privilege to have a water fast. And it's better than I'm very grateful that I have enough resources to where I can cut down on my usage rather than having a lack of resources, which people in lesser developed countries are struggling with. So I'm glad that I was able to have this opportunity.